Hello and welcome to our channel, Mornings at Sunrise Cottage. My name is Vicki Ann and today I'm going to do something a little bit different. I'm going to do some cooking for you. On Thanksgiving I always do a lemon lush, and this year at Christmas we're doing a little bit different dinner. We're going to do lasagna, 7-layer salad, and my daughter-in-law Robin requested that I do a lemon lush to go along with the meal. So here's what I'm doing. I use 2 cups of Martha White self-rising flour, pour that in, and then I have already heated, liquefied some butter in the microwave, and that's 1 cup of butter. No, that's 1/2 cup of butter. It's 2 of those short sticks. So now I'm just going to mix this up. And I usually use either a metal pan or a glass pan. I really don't like to use the plastic pans. But I had to get these Pioneer Women measuring cups. This is like the Ray Drummond. Hold it up enough you can see it. This is Ray Drummond, and it has a 2 cup like this, which is kind of unusual. And I may need a little bit more. I may have to add some more in there. Seems like it's a little bit dry on me. So I'm going to take a minute and add some more butter in there because it's drier than I like it. We use Land O'Lakes butter. We started using that and we really like it, so we've continued to use that. So I'm going to put this in the microwave about 30 seconds and add a little bit more to this till it gets to the consistency that I like. My oven preheating, you put it on 375, and I'm going to be baking this for 15 minutes. I'm going to add some more butter. Just pour it down in there, and I'm going to stir it up. Because you have to take your hands after you do this, and you have to put, after you get it mixed up, then you have to put it in this pan over here to the right and push it out and make a crust of sorts. I'm just going to use all of that. So that would be a full cup of butter. Now, one reason that I may be having to add more butter than normal is that this calls for, and all of the Lushies call for using nuts. Well, Neil is allergic to nuts. So what I do to compensate for that, if not, you wouldn't have enough crust. So what I do is I take this and I add a little bit more flour. And this asks for 1 cup of flour and 1 cup of nuts. So this feels just about right now. Let me kind of mash it around with my hands just a little bit so I can get it to the right feel. And this will be, you can feel that butter in there. Feels real good. Now, so all I do is I just move it over here to this and I start pushing it out, spreading it out with my hands. And I just push it all the way out. You don't try to take it up on the edge. All you do is just try to push this out to the edge of the pan. This makes a really good light crust, and it tastes so good. It takes a while now. You have to be patient with this. You just have to keep working it till you get it out there to the edge. And what I do is I just start back here and keep pushing, and sometimes you have to go back and get you some more of the dough and just keep working it forward. So I've got this one over, and then I'm going to work this side up. Okay, that's got that, and I'm just going to flip it around, and I'm going to do the other side now. Some of that butter is coming out there. That's okay, because that's what makes this taste so good. Now, this does not have any sugar in it whatsoever. It only has the butter and it has the Martha White self-rising flour. This took probably, what, about 5 minutes, Neil, to push this in, or did it take that long?
It did take that long.
Okay. So that's all that I do. I push that out like that. Kind of go back over it a little bit and try to make sure everything's just about even. Maybe kind of smooth the edges a little bit. Now, it's $3.75. I'm going to go ahead, pop my crust in here. Except I'm going to put it in the one that's heating down here. And then I'm going to set my timer for 15 minutes. Okay. Now you can let that alone. The next is I'm going to make the first layer of the Lush. But now once you get this out of the stove after it's baked the 15 minutes, what I do is I let this cool down. So what I may do is just let this cool down, and then when it's cool, we'll pick back up and I'll do the second and third layer. And I wanted to show you something else. What I'm going to do while that's finished baking, we've got 8 more minutes to go, I'm going to go ahead and get my ingredients in my mixer. This is an old Sunbeam mixer that I probably had for 15-20 years. Neil got it for me for Christmas one year, and we've used the daylights out of it. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to fill up this 1 cup of powdered sugar. Add a little bit more to it here. Make sure I've got a full cup. Okay. And this is a set of little decorative glass jars that I got at the flea market, and they work so good. I love them, and Neil hates them. He can't get his hand down in them, but works real good for me. So we've got that put in, and see, they seal so good. That's what I like about them. They've got a real good seal to them, and I got the little scoops to go inside of them. Now the next thing I'm going to use is I'm going to use 1 pack of the Philadelphia original cream cheese. And what I do, I don't know how the rest of you all do this, but what I do, I always just cut this open. As you can see, I'm a messy cook too. And then I cut it up into little pieces when I put it into my mixer, so that it will pick it up easier. And it's heated up just a little bit. It's not real cold, so that works just really good to do it that way. Peel that off, and then I just finished cutting this up and putting it in there. And we've got 4 minutes on the clock there. Okay, and then I'm going to get the rest of it that's in here. Take that out. I want all of my cream cheese in there. And I never do use the light cream cheese. I like this better when you use the regular cream cheese. I'll be walking back and forth to the garbage can here. Remember, I said I like to keep everything kind of neat as I go, if I can. Now, the next thing that I'm going to put in here is Cool Whip. And we had this outside in the freezer in our garage. So I've got to open this, and hopefully I can mix it. It really doesn't matter if it's pretty cold. It will, when you get that in the mixer, it'll still mix it well. So I'm going to tear this out and open that up. we use the regular Cool Whip. I always use the brand name on that. And if you all don't, and it works out great, let me know in the comments below, and I'll try something that's easier. See how easy this comes out? And it was frozen. But what I did, I just put it down in a little bit of water that was warm, and it got it in good shape. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to mix that, and that will be my first layer. I always do here. Turn it off. I'm mixing it down. What I do then is as it's mixing, I take this spatula and I bring it around, and I start it slow, and then as it's mixing for a while, I actually turn it up to where it's whipped. That looks really smooth, and it's ready to go in, and that's good because my timer just went off. I'm going to check it. Sometimes you have to let that go just a little bit. This needs to go just a little bit more. So I'm going to put it on about 3 more minutes. So 3 more minutes. Now this never does get like a brown color. It doesn't get a baked color like the top of a pie. It's real pale because you've just got flour in there, and you've got butter, but it makes a real tasty bottom for this pie, for this Lush. The first time I had one of these was when I was teaching school, and one of my students, his name was Dwight, and his mom Rose made one of these and brought it to school, and I thought that was the best thing that I ever had tasted. So when she brought it, from then on, she'd always make sure that I got my spot, my part of it. So, and then I got her to give me the recipe, and we used it, and I made it with the nuts for a few years. And then when Neil got the nut allergy and I couldn't use that anymore, I just started making it without. But it works really good. With the pecans, it's a little bit better, but it's good without it. So we're going to wait 2 minutes, and when that gets baked, when the crust is ready, we will get back on with you. Okay, this is what it looks like. That's done. It's actually, I probably should have gotten it out, I just couldn't see. But that's just fine the way it is. It looks just right. Now what I did here, I just put that under the exhaust fan on top of the stovetop, and I'll let that go till it's cooled down enough, and then I'll start adding the first layer. Now what I've done is I have put my 2 of the 4.5 cups serving Jello packets in here, and then I'm going to add 3 cups of milk. There's 2, and then I'm going to add 1 more. And this will be the lemon pudding. This makes the second topping. And you'll notice I didn't clean these things right here. I never do when I'm making something like this right here. The next one is okay, I don't clean those, so what I do, I just go ahead because it was just sugar and I'm gonna let that go a little bit. Now I start this off slow so I don't throw the pudding all over the countertop, and I start letting it thicken a little bit before that I bring the speed up much. But I do take my spatula and go around slowly and make sure that the solid pudding mix gets into the blender, the mixer. That smells so good, guys. That really does have a lemony scent to it. It's starting to get thick on me. I'm going to raise the speed up a little bit. Look at it and tell when it's starting to thicken on you, and you want it to get thick as a regular pudding would get. Well, you can tell that's just pull it up and let it drop down there. So that's just about right for a pudding. So I'm going to turn that off now. And when everything's cool enough over here, we'll start adding those layers on, and then I have a topping. Okay, what I do when I'm making a recipe, I look at 3 or 4 different versions of the recipe on the internet. And then I go through, and if one part of one of them sounds better, I use it. And if another one sounds better to me, I use it. So I kind of combine the 3 or 4 whatever recipes that I'm using. And one of them had this as part of the topping. These are lemon flavored Oreos. And what it said to do was simply just get some of these out and crush those and put them on top of the topping. Now the topping that we use is more of the Cool Whip. After you get all these layered on, then you put your Cool Whip on top. Then I'm going to crush some of these, and I'll see how many it will take. And we're going to put those right on top of the Cool Whip. Neil's looking at those like he thinks that sounds good. So we'll be back in just a few minutes. Now I'm going to put the first layer, that's the cheese layer, on. And you have to be, it's very fragile. This layer is very, very fragile. So what I'm going to do is just take a little bit and put it different parts on the pie, on the crust, so that I don't have to pull it across the crust. I'll just push that out with my hand a little bit. Remember, it's very fragile, so be really careful with that crust so it doesn't break up on you. Now, what I'm going to do is kind of just smooth it over. I'm just going to add the rest that I have to it, and then I'm going to smooth it out. Finger and push it out there. Try to get all the rest out. Now I'm just going to smooth that over. Okay, then we're ready for layer number 2. Put this on. This is layer number 2. Looking good. Now I'm going to scrape everything out of here. And even that up. Slide under here and open this. Okay, now I'm just going to take me a spoon and gently start putting this on the top. What I usually do is start in the corners and get all of the corners where they need to be. And you have to try to make sure you don't get any of your lemon up on the top. You don't want any of that lemon showing. I kind of like to stir it a little bit so it's a little fluffy. you want to, or something to make it look good there. And you just barely, this just barely does it, so. Okay, now that's got that. What I'm going to do now is I'm going to hop off and crush up some of the Oreos, and then I'll put those on, and that will have this dish finished. I'll be back in just a minute. Now, how do I do this? You can do it several ways. You can use a mortar and pestle, or you can, I just always put my things in a plastic bag, and then I just start crushing them up. But this works so good to do it in the bag. You don't make a mess. Now let's see how that's going. Okay, all you do then is when you get it out, you just sprinkle it on top. That's just your topping. You make your topping out of that. And that adds a little more lemony flavor to it. Bits of it on, you can do that, or if you want to add it and make it a real thick topping, you can do that. I'm making mine fairly thick. Okay guys, that's about does it. I think that looks good enough. You have to know when to stop. Maybe a few little more pieces.